stimulates your waist, arms, and even your ears. And the prize for most beautiful sight still goes to the wonderful practice of the Taiji sword. You can find groups of people practicing along the road. Obviously, you don't get this good with only 1 or 2 days of practice. The morning market usually only opens along the Yudao Street between 6 and 7:30. The farmers from nearby come to sell their fresh vegetables and other household items.
Very cheap and very fresh.
The old saying that the early bird gets the worm holds true here. This is the Chinese version of fast food. Convenience, a multiple choices, and ready in an instant, such roadside food stands are a blessing for anyone hurrying on their way to work. Even in the winter's time, the streets in Nanjing still look pretty. However, walking on the modern street of Nanjing amidst the traffic, it's hard to imagine the city's former glory. I went to the Nanjing Yuan, or Nanjing Museum, to find one thing that most colorfully represents the past, the wonderful Yun brocade. At the museum, Mr. Jin Wen kindly served as my tour guide to give me a rudimentary explanation about the complex ancient skills. Yun means cloud, and the Yunjin literally means a brocade as beautiful as the clouds. The Yun brocade was only made for the royal family. Ordinary people wouldn't even have the luxury of looking at them.
云锦的工艺应该在古代这个历史上也是一个顶峰阶段的，所以说特别高级。你看像这样的云锦漆器，那么上面一个人我们称为提花或者织手啊，它是主要是把这个纹样提起来。下面一个人是织造，织造呢它有2个功能，一个要织出这个织物的基组织和缎织物做出来，那么同时呢它还要把这个颜色织进去。
The weaving procedure is complicated even to look at. And to know how complicated it is, one day's non-stop work can only produce only 5 centimeters of brocade. Not only do people care about the colors and the shine of the fabric, but even the sound the skirts make counts.
Imagine how I would sound wearing a dress like this and I walk by.
Notice how the textile glimmers. Different lighting brings out different shades of royal gold. Mr. Jin Wen also ventures into renovating the old patterns of Yun brocade to suit modern tastes. His studio even produces brocade with styles and designs that cater to the Westerner's eyes.
A total of 10 different governments and administrations had made Nanjing the seat of their capital. Among them, the Kuomintang government was the last one. Along this road, the Changjiang Road, which was named after the famous Yangtze River, you can still find many architectures built during that period, a very special time span in China's history.
You could still find many buildings from that period, a time when the Western influences, including the notion of democracy and science, gradually swept into the Middle Kingdom. The changes of the mindset was reflected in the changes of architectural style. It was a most turbulent period of time in China, when the country was torn with civil war and countless revolutions. The Changjiang Road bore witness to one of the most important moments in China's modern history, when the PLA took over the presidential palace, marking the defeat of the Kuomintang government, which was headed by Chiang Kai-shek. He had, by then, long lost the trust of the Chinese general public. However, the presidential palace also commemorates a well-respected president, the first president in China's history, Dr. Sun Yat-sen.
On January the 1st, 1912, at 10 o'clock in the evening, Dr. Sun Yat-sen stood there and gave a short, brief speech, officially sworn in as the provincial president, marking a new era in China's history.
Although Dr. Sun remained in office only for a very short time, 91 days in total, his presidency marked the end of the several thousand years long feudal system in China. And this building is where Dr. Sun Yat-sen lived during that 91 days.
Guess what this is for? We have some water in this utensil, made of stone. Actually, this is for you to keep goldfish. It is, in fact, a gift from overseas Chinese to congratulate Dr. Sun Yat-sen for his swearing in as provincial president.
Today, people draw from this part of history and mix the past and present here. This area is known as Nanjing 1912. Sitting right next to the presidential palace, you can find all kinds of bars, coffee shops, restaurants, and clubs. It is the newest hotspot to be seen late at night.
Buildings, shops, and restaurants. People and traffic. A street is the heartbeat of a city. Here a door opens on local life. History is brought into the present. Travelogue takes you on a tour of the streets of some of China's towns and cities. Travel with Travelogue.
The streets in Nanjing are wide avenues with planted trees. But now we are here at 1.5 hours away from Nanjing City at the old streets of Gaochun. We'll see what the streets used to be like.
The streets here are very much different from the avenues in Nanjing. The basic structure of the street and buildings along the road still serve the same purposes they did in the old time. The doors that could be unloaded make sure that the shops are completely open to customers.
In streets like this, you know that's a shop that whatever passersby come over can take a look inside and check out whatever they want. And right beside it, we find wood stone gates with stone frames. And on the ground, the menkar, this is what we call menkar, has two openings like this. That's for wheels that people can pull the carts inside. Such kind of gates indicate distance. structure used to be for a workshop. Inside, people would have been making soybeans or pancakes, whatever. And whatever animal that pulls the goods over would have been waiting outside and would have been tied like this. Wait.
Most of the people living on this street makes a living out of tourism, selling all kinds of souvenirs to visitors. This is a small workshop that produces a kind of sweet cake made from rice powder. The freshly made ones are especially tasty and moist.
Hey, that's what I'm looking for. The ancient well. They have a little sign over here.
Here it is. Wow, what a nice well. Still water inside. Hey. The trick is that you have to swing it really hard. Now, you see those marks here? It all comes from people pulling the bucket out of the well. Wow, really some water from the ancient well. People still use it to wash the vegetables and clothes. But you're not supposed to pull the water back into the well. So I'm going to water some plants.
And many of the buildings bear a unique signature local architectural feature, a drum-like decoration called xigu.
The old street is like a living museum, but it has its own folk art museum, like this one. On exhibition here are pictures of Taoism gods. Each one of them represents a star.
Followers of Taoism study mystic sciences, such as astrology and alchemy. Each of these gods had his or her own characters and duties. For example, the North Star of Xuanwu is represented by a bull. And the goddess of the moon is supposed to be in charge of marriage. Besides the stars, the religion has a myriad of gods that are much forgotten in the modern days. It's a surprise to find so many of such precious relics carefully preserved in the small town. The collection here is supposedly the largest of its kind in China. Also on display in this small museum are a number of well-done stone, wood, and brick sculptures. They were collected from nearby villages or just on this old street of Gaochun. It's hard to get the true essence of a place just by a swirl-like visit. Not a small street like the Gaochun, not to mention the big city of Nanjing. But somehow I think I've managed to grasp a little bit of it, and I hope you've experienced it as well from watching our show.
Actually, there's nothing exotic or very exciting about Nanjing. Everything's loaded with history and very traditional. But somehow I feel myself falling in love with the city after just a few days here. It is said the summertime in Nanjing is very, very hot. But I'm definitely coming back on a summer's day and to see all the streets covered with green leaves. This is Travelogue, and you're watching Street Special in Nanjing. I'm Liu Changying. I'll see you around.